Hey guys, this is Kevin here with Prairie Moon's Education and Outreach team. Today I wanted to do a little discussion on Prairie Moon's germination tactics and our germination codes. You'll notice a lot of our seeds require some sort of stratification, and we should do a little bit of a deep dive into that so you have a better understanding of how to turn that seed to a seedling, to a starting, to an eventual plant in your garden. Every order from Prairie Moon, as you know, will come with a seed starting basics brochure. Outlined here are the germination codes. They are letters that range from A down to O, and each one has a different meaning for turning that seed to that seedling. We'll start up top with A. A is our easiest. It's an automatic. All you have to do is directly sow that into your garden bed or into your trays. Make sure moisture levels are there, and boom, you got your plant. The B's, they're a little bit more intricate. It's our boiling water treatment. Here you are set to boil a pot of water, pour it over the seeds through a strainer, and then soak those seeds for at least 24 hours prior to starting the stratification cold and wet treatment. What's the cold and wet treatment, you may ask? Well, let's just hop down to our C. If you see a germination code with C and a number in the parentheses, that indicates that that seed must go through a cold and wet period prior to germination. The cold and wet period can easily be done outside with snow and natural weather patterns, or you could do it in your refrigerator. The most common way is with a coffee filter or a paper towel, dampening it down, and then pay attention to that number in the parentheses because that will be the number of days minimum that you need for that stratification window. When you open up your Germination Codes Seed Starting Basics brochure, you see inside a full-on tutorial on how to go about that. Now the germination code D is a little bit tricky because it means a small seed. A good rule of thumb is you don't want to bury a seed any deeper than it is wide after the stratification, if it needs it, that is. And so with these, you just want to surface sow them, whether that's on a tray or in your garden bed outside. Just get them on the surface. If you're doing it outside, the weather patterns, freeze-thaw cycles will work that seed into the soil where it needs to be to germinate. Now, when we get into germination codes E and F, they're going to be a little bit more involved. E's are a double dormancy needing a warm moist period followed by a cold moist period, and then they will germinate the following spring. So if you sow any seeds outside in the fall right now that are E's, you're going to be waiting a little bit until they get that warm moist period followed by that cold moist period. However, if you go down to our next one, F, that would be a double dormancy needing 2 cold moist periods. It's a little bit tricky, a little bit hard to do artificially. If you did want to do those artificially, you should factor in about a 60 to 90 day period for each the cold cycle and the warm cycle. But keep in mind, you need that element of moisture still too. So with that warm moist cycle, it might be best if you could put it on a radiator or a vent in that paper towel, maintain that moisture for the 60 to 90 days prior to moving it back inside to your fridge. Sometimes those are just easily done sowing outside in the spring for the E's, waiting that full year until the next spring to see the seedling, or sowing outside in the fall for the F's. But keep in mind, if you do that, it needs the 2 overwinters in order to germinate. Going up to G, that's really easy. The seeds just need a nice cool soil to germinate. So sometimes we talk about warm season versus cool season grasses. A lot of times those cool season grasses just benefit from early spring coolness and that moisture from the snow melting. H is a little bit of a fun one. That's a little bit more hands-on. This is for seeds that generally have a harder outside shell that needs a little bit of roughing up, if you will, prior to the stratification. You will see these commonly in our legumes. Here I have a blue wild indigo, and on every packet or bulk seed, the label will have a germination code. And when you see that germination code, just match it up to whatever you get in your Seed Starting Basics brochure, and that'll show you how to prepare that seed. So with these H's, the scarification, you will need to gently abrade that seed coat. How do you do that? Light grit sandpaper. You don't want to hear any cracking, scuffling. You don't want to break the seed. So if you just have very fine sandpaper, a gentle should be all that you need for those. That breaks down the seed coat a little bit, allows that embryo to imbibe the water, and then bingo, you can do your stratification. Having that cold and moist turns that into a seedling. Going into the I, That's another kind of fun one, again pertaining to the legumes. The I means that this species could benefit from a little bit of beneficial bacteria called inoculum. The inoculum is not entirely necessary. It just helps if you have poor soils. Keep in mind, this does not increase germination, if you will, but rather just helps the relationship between the seed and the soil if you have pretty lousy soils. J, we remove the hulls from the seeds. Some seeds will come with a hull on, some won't. Cleaning them is very difficult, so sometimes that hull remains on there, sometimes it gets cleaned off. The J's are nice because if you are worried about that, you can always bring it up and we will let you know if the seed has been hulled or not. K is another fun one. That is a hemiparasitic plant. It will latch into, after germination, latch into the roots of graminoids, commonly calyxes, juncuses, or grasses. These hemiparasitic plants are hemiparasitic, so they're not fully parasitic. They can germinate on their own after a cold and moist treatment. But if you want to ensure a little bit further and better success, you might want to pair them with an already germinated, mature plant that is a grass, sedge, or a rush. They'll tap into the roots there, and that helps their survival throughout their growing season. L, you just want to plant that seed fresh. If you have a garden and you want to increase your population of a certain species, once you can ensure that that seed is ready to be harvested, you can pick that and throw it down. It's just better planted fresh. M, best planted outdoors in the fall. So you want to sow it in the fall so it gets a full overwinter rather than just maybe needing a couple months. Lastly, O, these ones are kind of like the scarification germination codes, but they require a little bit more hefty of a nicking on the seed coat rather than just fine grit sandpaper. You might need a knife or something sharp to really get a nice poke on there so that the seed can imbibe the water after its stratification. And then, of course, we have a question mark. We are not full-on total experts on germinating seeds, so some stuff we don't really know how to get into a seedling. So that's where you come into play. If you have any tips and tricks when you see a question mark next to one of our germination codes, give us a ring. Anyway, all of our seed packets will have the germination codes on the back with a little blurb on there. It's just a little blurb you can refer to either our germination codes page in the Prairie Moon catalog, or you can refer to our Seed Starting Basics brochure that will come with every seed order. And as always, our sales and consulting team is around to help you. Just don't call us on the weekends, that's our time. I hope this helped you guys. If you have any questions, give us a ring. Otherwise, happy planting.